What is going on, everybody? In this video, we're providing the state of the market and stock picks for November 11th, 2022. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, consider subscribing, as I do provide daily and weekly updates to prepare you for the day and the week ahead in this glorious market. Now, today was a very pivotal day, coming in with core, especially after the FTX fiasco that's currently going on. They're actually looking for someone to bail them out at like 9 billion or some jazz like that. But nonetheless, what really matters is, which if someone does bail them out, will really help a potentially big crisis, considering there's a lot of heavy investors in FTX. So we will see there. But going back to the core, we were expecting 8 today. And we came in at 7.7. Again, coming into this report, I was very uncertain and could potentially see a bigger dip. Again, something I've talked about is I saw a lot of heavily institutional buying around that 3,600. It led me to believe that we could have potentially hit a bottom. Now, the core coming in at 7.7 is fantastic. It is the first step in the right direction, but there's still a lot that needs to unfold coming into here. First step saying that we could have hit peak. We don't know yet. Time will tell. You still need more time, as inflation can pop right back up over 9.1 very, very easily. With that being said, we are seeing the damage in which these rapid Fed rate increases are doing with these massive layoffs and these huge corporations. Nonetheless, these people are getting big severance packages. We're not really going to see the impact of that for a couple months when it comes to data. But also, with that being said, is we are in the right direction. We have one more core before the next monetary policy. Now, a bunch of people, Fed members, are coming out saying, don't get ahead of yourself. We still need to know if this is the right thing, what is going on. And then a lot of people kept reiterating that. But you have to understand that this is a major step. We were looking for a bigger point percentage drop on the core like we did today. That finally happened. And then now what we're looking at is if we can get even a little bit of a decrease into the next core, which I believe is on the 14th, then we have policy on the 15th of December. Potentially, now this is just potentially, the Fed can come in at 50 to 25 point basis move, which would be incredible. It would actually have us completely pivot from where we're currently at and potentially leading us to a bottom. But again, one thing we still have to consider, inflation may be under control during the meantime, but we have to understand that the damage that it's already done. You have tons of people who have completely drained their savings. Their savings are one of the lowest points it's been in a very long time. People's credit cards are up massively and people are getting laid off massively. Question being is how quick can the consumer counter after what's going on? And that's saying that hopefully we get another lower core. Hopefully people can start getting hired back on. How quick is that turnaround really determines how 2023 will play out. You can't just say this is the bottom, this is it, we're in a bull market again. We're not going to go in a V-shaped recovery. Yes, today we had a massive explosive run. Tomorrow could potentially be another massive explosive run to the upside, because it's a great first step. It's the first real positive news we've had in a very long time. And so that in itself is very explosive, and very explosive in particular to tech. Tech is going to have a massive day tomorrow to the upside, and you have to be mindful of that because of what's going on. Again, this isn't a 100% pivot, but it is definitely a big step in the right direction to pivot. So just be mindful of that, and don't think that we can't see more downside. I don't think the volatility is going away, but we could have potentially hit a bottom at that 3,600. But we will see moving forward. Nonetheless, you have to also understand what I was just talking about was the fact that that report, not only does the report help, but you have to understand that all the damage that's done with the rapid rate increases, one of those things could potentially, like the FTX thing or any other thing with loans, people losing their homes, right? One of those other things could cause a black swan event to cause us to sell off even more. That's what you have to be mindful of, is the damage has already been done. The next monetary policy and core isn't for another month. That's more time. You have to understand that is still damaging the economy. So as long as these rates are still at a high rate, it's causing more damage to the economy and causing more people to get laid off. So you have to understand that this cycle is going to be slow. It's not going to be a quick turnaround. The market might turn around quick, but again, you don't think that right around the corner you could have a major drop right around the corner. Right now, it's new, it's fresh. Hey, we may have beat inflation. It's continually falling down. We actually got a bigger percent drop in inflation, which is great to see. But again, Fed can't let this thing just walk away. And so, with all that being said, that's why you have to be very mindful of the next core that is coming out. But again, great steps today. We're seeing a massive run. Could potentially see a couple of days worth of this run, trying to make up for lost time. But again, remember, it could very well be corrected if one of these black swans happen with the damage that's already been done. You can't undo the damage that's been done by the rate increases. And that's why I want to reiterate is the damage is being done. And that's why a lot of these, the Luna fold, because obviously people were leveraging that like they're not supposed to, but it exposes a lot of these weaknesses that have been essentially holding up a lot of these financial institutions, and they're folding because of that. And the banks are very much playing with fire and doing the same thing. So just because inflation is coming down doesn't mean it's not affecting everything else. And all it's going to take is one more pin to be pulled, and the whole thing can collapse. That's how close we are. Yes, great news today. I'm not trying to deter for the great news today, but you have to also understand the damage that is being done and currently being done is not just going to, that damage is not going to go away. It needs to play out for that damage to unfold itself on the consumer. And where is the consumer standing at this point? Right now, they're in a really bad situation. Things need to get better. This is the first signs of things getting better. It's going to be a slow process for everything to get better. It's not saying that the stock market can't recover. I just don't see all-time highs until things play out better. So I could see us slowly start making a choppy way back up. But you have to also understand that there's still that thing in play that could potentially drop the market with the damage that's occurring still right now, and the damage we're seeing these huge layoffs. These aren't small layoffs; these are huge across the board. Now you got tons of people on severance package that will still look as being employed, but in fact they're not. They're looking for new work, and if they can't find new work, they're not going to be out spending more money. How close are we to people hitting their max limit on credit cards? How close are we to people foreclosing on their homes? Those are the questions you need to be asking right now, because that's what matters. That is the next step that could potentially sink this thing even more. You have to still be very mindful this thing can sink because of the damage that's already been done. Now, what's future coming? Again, these, even though they decreased the rate, you have to understand the rate is still very high. It's going to be a long time before they lower it. They said they want to keep it stable, then they'll hold it there for a long time before they bring it down. The market can't take the rates being this high. They have to dial back. They have to take some off is the problem, because we're seeing the damage and it is not pretty. So you still have to be mindful of that. It isn't all-time highs tomorrow, but we could definitely make one hell of a run, I can tell you that, because it's the first positive sentiment, the first step in the right direction. So after my little rant, since that was a pretty long rant, tomorrow you're still going to be mindful of this top here, essentially the 4100 mark. again, we had a massive rip starting where we came in today to where we are now. Big 200-point ripper today. Massive ripper. And normally second days are even more of a ripper. So really watching that. Primarily tech tomorrow because of that. Again, the dollar sinking down to 107. Bitcoin is going to have some problems because of the FTX whole situation fiasco. I'll tell you what, with Bitcoin, what we're really looking for here, what can really save this is if someone does essentially bail out FTX. If they can bail out with 9.9 billion, it's really limiting your options. But if someone could bail them out, this thing could potentially pop right back and things could fall back into place for another bull run. But you have to understand this bull run is not going to be quick. It's not the past 2 years bull run V-shaped recovery you're going to get. You're going to get a very choppy bull run. Again, hopefully nothing else plays out. Tesla's been lagging because Elon's been selling heavily. But as you can see, we've held here at the 189 mark. Again, major gap up today. This thing has a lot of room to retrace, at least back to the 225 for a retest before we reject it and continues up. Again, there is 206 is that first resistance, but I think after tonight's lagging, this is definitely one of the lagging techs you definitely want to be watching, as this thing could really gap and run tomorrow. So that's one thing I want to watch. You can start looking at Google. I tell you, there's a big gap on these because the cloud has been hit. But if there is relief, people are hopes that ads will get more money back within them. But again, you're coming right into resistance at the 95. You'll get a hard rejection because this is the first retest. And then we should get another leg up. So I'm really watching the pullback on these. Although tomorrow I think we'll gap up pretty big, and then we'll watch for that gap up and continue running. Again, we are so far not out of the woods. Yeah, that's one thing to be mindful of. BA monster ripper, of course, because everything else is ripping. So BA has been already ripping for the most part as well. So looking for a hard ceiling at the 189, then we'll look back for a retest roughly again around 173. So kind of watching that play out. JPM, again, we thought it was going to die here, start ripping. I don't like the fact that this is ripping up constantly, but again, we haven't had good news in such a long time. This is what's going to happen, and you're going to have to expect that major pullback is going to be coming as well. Whenever that case is. Again, we're getting slower months, so just be mindful of that. GS, same thing. Looking for a big pullback here, but we'll see what happens there. BAC, Bank of America, looking for some sort of pullback here at the 37 and see how that's handled there. But we'll definitely see. So that's pretty much what I got. I don't want to get into too many different things. There's not many things that are lagging. Tomorrow might be one of those days where you just buy. Everything's gapped up. All the chips have gapped up. Everything's gapped up. Again, great news. There's nothing really falling behind. The only other one I can see potentially falling behind is Roblox here. It's trying to push back up. This one may actually gap pretty far, at least back to the 41 tomorrow. So really watching some of these, I think they could do really well, especially the way things are coming in the future. Again, you have to be mindful. There's still a lot of damage that's been done. Question is how much is that damage going to affect other things and cause other catastrophic events aside from inflation? Again, aside from inflation, something else could happen that can make things a lot worse. So that's what we're trying to be mindful of and trying to be careful of moving forward, not to just think that's going to churn in all-time highs. But again, great steps towards moving forward, and that's where we're at. So with all that being said, if you made this far, go ahead and drop a like button. Until next time, I'll see you guys later.